Hi, and thanks for joining me. I'm John with BitSize Tech. Today we're going to go through setting up Vault, giving it a backend, specifically using Consul in this tutorial. You can use just normal Vault as its own backend, but with the Hashicorp stack, they do have Consul that gives you the ability to have multiple Vault servers running in a high availability mode. So we're just going to show you the simple setup for that. As well as getting the initial configuration and the UI set up for Vault. So there's a couple of things we're going to go over. So I've already gotten my server set up, updated. We're using Ubuntu 2004 in this. We also have unzip is something you'll need, as well as JQ. We're going to do some queries later that it'll help prettify the responses. So that's already pre-installed. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually install Consul. So it's pretty easy to get the link for that. It's going to be under these releases.hashicorp.com/console. I'm using version 1.9.1 for this example, and then it's going to download as a zip file. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually unzip that file. So unzip. Great. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use it to our user bin so we can actually use it. So it's sudo mv console to /user/bin. And yep, enter my password. Great. Now from here, we're going to check to make sure we can run those commands by running console -- version. So it is currently there, so we can run it. The next thing we want to do is actually create a service file, so this actually lets your server know that you're running console and what you want it to do exactly. So sudo nano, you could use vim. I'm just using nano for the purposes of this tutorial. Systemd, system, and then we're going to name it console-service. And then I have supplied our template. This will be in our GitHub repo that's actually in the description. So we're just telling Ubuntu, this is our service. Here's our documentation. We're going to say to start console, this is its location. Run it in server mode. We will have a UI. Here's its data directory. And then the other thing, we're going to tell it to be a node for Vault. You can actually specify that in the configuration. And then we're going to bind it to any IP address on this machine. So any private or local that the machine can actually answer to, it'll respond. And then we're going to set our configuration directory to console.d. Then after that, it's just saying if anything happens, just kill the process. That's what this is right here. And then anyone can use it on the server. So we're going to save that. And then the next thing we're going to do is we actually need to create that directory that we set in there for the configuration. So sudo make dir /etc/console.d. Apologies for the sirens. I live close to a hospital. And then we're going to create that UI file that's also in the GitHub repo that I've supplied. So sudo nano /etc/console d /UI.json. We're just going to hold for a second. I'm going to cut ahead when that noise stops. So this is what we're going to say. We're just going to tell console UI to bind on any address. Console does normally work on port 8300. That's its default port. So it's just going to bind to that port on any address that's available on this machine. So we're going to save that. Great. So now that we have that there, the next thing we're going to need to do is actually reload the daemon on Ubuntu. This will let it know that we've created a new service and to find those changes. So it's sudo. So if I type sudo system ctl daemon, helps if I spell that correctly, daemon reload. Great. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say sudo system ctl start console dash or dot service. And we're going to check the status. And it is currently running. So we did not run into any errors. We do know it's currently running. That's great. So you can control C out of that, and we're going to clear. Now, even though it's running, it doesn't know to automatically restart console when you do this. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to tell the system to do that. So what you want to do is sudo system ctl enable console.service. It's going to create the symlink, and it's automatically going to restart it anytime this computer needs to reboot. Which hopefully shouldn't be that often. Great, so we've got console installed. That's going to be our backend for Vault. The next thing we want to do is, because Vault can have a UI interface, and this server, we want to keep the traffic secure, we're going to actually install something to generate certificates for us. In this specific tutorial, we're going to use certbot. So it's really easy to use. We could use OpenSSL, but instead of having to walk you through all the different flags you might need, this one kind of does everything for you, and it'll automatically renew the certificates. So it's pretty easy. Sudo apt install certbot. Yes, I should have put a -y flag in there, but it's fine. Doesn't take that long. Alright, it is installed. So the next command you're going to use is sudo certbot cert only --standalone default, and then I'm going to use this domain. Now I actually have this domain in this tutorial. I actually have this server behind this subdomain that I'm about to use. You can use certbot for internal only. You can do a TXT record verification. I'm not going to do that for the purposes of this tutorial. So I'm making some assumptions that you own a domain. This server is behind that domain under a specific subdomain. And that's what you're going to use to actually set up the cert, because certbot will automatically renew. So it needs to be able to hit anything behind that domain. And if you don't have it in this mode, you'll have to find that offline. There's a lot of tutorials that you can find online with that information. But this is all you'll need to enter. It's going to ask you for an email address that they can reach you at. This is if there's any problems with your renewal. So I'm going to use size.tech and then agree to their terms and services. And I'm going to say no, but getting that newsletter is actually pretty good, since they're a nonprofit, to help with the Let's Encrypt project. There's some pretty good information, but for this purposes, I'm not saying yes. Great. It has actually created our certificate. So the next thing you'll need is you'll actually need these two paths, right? So I suggest you copy those and save them somewhere else. We're going to need those a little bit later on. So just make sure that you've saved them. So the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to install Vault now. To do that, we're going to do another wget. I have this one saved, so I'm just going to copy paste it. But you can go to the releases for Hashicorp and find the newest version if you want. I'm going to use 1.6.1 for this tutorial. All right, it's downloaded. Now we're going to unzip that as well. So Vault. Inflating, and then much like we did with console, we're going to move that to user bin vault /user/bin. Great. We can verify that it's working by doing the same thing, vault -- version. All right, so we can actually use that command. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up the directory for Vault. So sudo make dir /etc/vault So with that directory, we're going to create a config file. This is what's going to be used for the configuration of Vault. Hashicorp uses HCL, the Hashicorp language. It's essentially JSON, but you can find all their documentation on their website. So we're going to use nano again, sudo nano /etc /vault config. I don't know why I try to autocomplete that. I'm creating the file right now. I also have this example file saved in the GitHub repo. When you copy it over, it'll look like this. The only information you'll need to update is right here, that subdomain. So this is that file path that I told you to save. If you saved it in a different location, you'll need to replace the whole thing. But if you just go ahead and update this section. Enter that in. Vault.bit sized.tech. And then this is for our actual full chain. That's for the private key. We're setting TLS to disabled to false, which means that it's true. So TLS is not disabled. So that means traffic will have to go through TLS in order to access it. So that's how we know our web traffic is secure. So it's telling it to listen on any TCP on this machine at port 8200. That's incorrect. Wait, 83 or 85? I think it's 85. We'll find out. So we're telling it to contact Consul port 8500, telling our path is at Vault, and then we're saying the UI is equal to true. If I misconfigured that port, we'll find out in a second. So after we've created that file, we're going to do the Vault service much like we did in the previous command, sudo nano /etc system, and then vault.service. Great. And then I have this for you right here. Similar thing. We're going to tell it it's Vault. We're going to say to load. Here's the location of that config file. If anything happens to kill that service, and it can be used by anyone on this server. Control X. Yep. And then we'll need to reload the daemon again. Daemon reload. Start Vault. And then we'll check status. We'll see if I had any port misconfigurations. Nope. It looks to be running. We do need to, however, actually, let's stop the service. Something you do need to do is you do need to export a variable for your Vault. So it's going to look like this. This is going to be how it knows where to actually send traffic for Vault. So we're going to say vault.bitsized.tech. And then export, and then that's setting the variable for now, but if we want it to reload every time the machine is turned on, we're going to set it in our bash RC. So here you go. Bash RC. So that's going to reload every time the machine reboots. Something else that's useful is we can also set up Vault autocomplete. So that's dash autocomplete install, then complete dash c slash user bin vault for Vault. And then if I type Vault, we can see all the commands. So we're going ahead and telling it this is super useful when you're still learning Vault, you don't know the commands. Go ahead and set up that autocomplete. So now that we have that set up, let's restart the Vault service. Great. Let's check the status, make sure it starts. All right, no errors. Control C out of that, and then we'll go ahead and set it to enable like we did Consul, so it'll automatically start the service. Great. So now that that's set up, we need to actually initialize Vault. So to do so, you do Vault operator init, and it's going to do this. So what's happening here is it turns on Vault, and it gives you these 5 keys. These are essentially your passwords for all intents and purposes. So to unseal Vault, which anytime Vault is stopped or restarted, it goes into a sealed state. To log in, you have to do an unsealing process, and you use these unseal keys to do that, after which you can log in with your root token. You can log in a multitude of ways. You can also rekey if you ever need to, or restart Vault. You will lose all your information that's in there because it's going to seal Vault after so many bad retries, or if you need to reinitialize it, all that information is essentially wiped out. It's very secure in that aspect, but please save these in a safe place. Keep them where they're readily available because you will need these for any other follow-up tutorials. We will go over some other auth methods, but specifically this one's just getting Vault installed and turned on for the first time. So now that we have that, we can do an unseal. So it's a Vault operator unseal, and actually let me save these before I get started so I don't lose them. And when you do unseal, you put in any one of the 5 keys. Doesn't matter which order you put them in, any one of the 5 keys. You can actually enter those. It'll give you a response back. It's saying it's initialized, but it's still sealed. Unseal process 1 of 3. So we still need to put in 2 more keys. So we'll do that again with the next key I have. So Vault operator unseal. Now you can enter the token in the same line, but that's not recommended because if someone went back through your terminal, they could actually find that key, and you don't want to hand those out. So I'll do that. I'll show you what that looks like for the purposes, but this is not a best practice. But there you go. There. So with our final one, it now says sealed false, which means it is no longer sealed, it is unsealed. So this is exactly what we want to see. And to do anything, we need to do Vault login. It's going to ask you for your token. That's what that root token was that it displayed. You can create more tokens that aren't root. For the tutorial, we're just going to use root. This is not a public-facing server that anyone else can access other than myself. This is locked down to my environment only. We're also not going to, go through the best of the best. This is just a basic tutorial. Best practice is never use root. Create another admin account and save root just for emergency situations. But we have everything set up. We know it's working, so this is just the initial setup of Vault and Consul to get that going. We will be doing another tutorial in which we will go over how to create key pairs, how to create certs, different auth methods, other things of that nature, but this is just your basic how to get it up and running, and now you can start playing with Vault and figuring it out for yourself. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to add them to this video. I try and answer them. I'll be available. Also, make sure if you want to, all the information as far as files go are going to be on my GitHub repo that I've uploaded. It's got the basic tutorial how to get that set up. It's got the config files that you'll need and some of the other information. So just make sure to replace the info that we went over in this video. But as far as this one's concerned, we're done. I'll see you in the next one, and have fun playing with Vault.